Let's take a look at the subject of gaining commitment from customers, but by remaining ethical and professional, but moving the sale along to the conclusion, of course, is what we're looking at. And a great film that you must watch called Glengarry Glen Ross. It's an old film now, it's early 90s, I think. Take a look at some of the actors in that. They look very young, don't they? There's Al Pacino, they're looking quite young. Now that film, I guess, demonstrated what 90s sales techniques were all about, and they were sleazy for whatever you look at it. They weren't good. We were slightly better in the financial services sector because we were regulated by them, but it wasn't brilliant. Now, I'm not talking about sleazy closing skills here, and here's Alec Baldwin looking ever so young, using the always be closing technique that he adopted. Now, I'm not going to go there with that one. I've got a couple for you, which you'll be able to use subtly and elegantly in your dealings with clients and customers. Not to become a sleazy salesperson, but to move things along to a successful conclusion. And that's your job, to keep things ticking along nicely. Now, the first technique for you, I've called it matching the buying steps to your sales process. And this particular technique asks that you focus on how your customer buys a mortgage. And then you align your selling steps or your advisory steps to the way that they buy, or the stage in the buying process that are in. Many of us don't do that. We see a client and we expect them to start at number one and work the way all the way through. And that's fine, but the customer may be miles ahead of you, you see, and you'll end up frustrating them and not knowing exactly where you're coming from. So let's take a quick review of the customer's buying steps then, shall we? Just a quick review of that. Let's just pop over to a whiteboard for this one, and I've already started here. How customers, or consumers I'm talking about here, how do they buy mortgages? So if you just take a look at the way they buy mortgages, this is how it works pretty much on average. First of all, somebody has a need, or they have a problem which develops in their head. Now that problem is that their mortgage is going to go up, they're worrying about being able to afford it, their fixed rate's coming to an end in 12 months, 18 months or something, or maybe 6 months. It's a problem that's like up there with all the other problems in life. It could be that they're looking to refinance for some reason, maybe raise some extra capital. They could be looking to move house, But the fact is that there's a problem there in their heads, but it's not a really big problem. Now, when the problem worsens, here we go, problem worsens or gets even more intense in their heads, that's when they'll start to do something about it. Now, for example, Shelley and I, we've got a fixed rate mortgage, comes to an end in May next year. So we're going to be looking, obviously, at some point. Now, is it a problem? Yes, because it's going to go all the way north. Is it a problem that's really on top of our minds? Not really, because there's not much we can do about it yet. So we're kind of at the problem stage. Now, once the problem worsens, in other words, it gets really quite intense, your customer will then look for solutions for that problem. Now, believe me, they ain't going to just phone you. They're not going to rock up on your door, knock on your lovely office in the high street and say, "Hi, I'm here." No, very few people. What they'll do is they'll research. They'll go on the internet and start researching. And that's what they'll do. And I'm sorry, everybody will do that. They will start researching for a solution to their problem. Now, will they come to you? They might do. It depends really how much they value you. And of course, it depends whether you've contacted them or not, or are in the frame, name in the frame kind of thing. Because they're not just your client. They are the client of the lender. They're the client of the insurance company. They're the client of the buildings insurance company. They're on the database of several client bases. They're not just yours. You have to work at it. You have to contact them in advance. Now, obviously, they're going to research. They're also going to seek referrals, because that's the way people work, isn't it? They're going to seek referrals from friends and family in the real world. They're going to go online and seek referrals, look out for testimonials maybe, see where they can find somebody else that's used a solution and what result that has. We all do that now. Once they've done all this research bit, they'll then consider their options. In other words, what solutions are available to them to solve their problem, and then they'll choose whatever solution they want. And there's a lot of customers now who will do this themselves. This is very DIY nowadays, even more now with artificial intelligence giving people all the information they need. A lot of people going on to ChatGPT and other techniques to find the information, get websites, and they do it themselves because they think they're going to keep the costs down. You see, there are no fees or no sleazy salespeople getting in the way. Now, obviously, what we have to do for this commitment process really is when we meet the client for the first time, or they're an existing client of ours and we've made contact with them, which you should do of course, we need to try and find out where your consumer is in their buying steps. Simple as that. So when does your client appear first of all? Do they appear here? Do they appear here, if they've been referred? Are they part of their research? Are you part of their research? So where do you appear first of all? You need to ask that. Where have they been before? You need to ask that question. Who have they spoken to beforehand? Where have they researched? What information have they gained? It's not in your fact find. It's not a compliance thing, but we need to find that out. What's their time scale to make a choice, for example? Their fixed rate may not be for another year, so what's their time scale? All these things help you to attach your sales process to their buying process as well. Who else is helping them to make a decision? There's surprisingly a lot of first-time buyers who'll look to their mum and dad to help them make a decision. Mum and dad aren't guarantors or anything, but they'll speak to their mum and dad at Sunday lunch to get their opinion. That's what people do. So who else? Ask them, who else is helping you to make a decision here? Who else are you talking to about this? So all the questions you may not have thought about before, but we need to ask. So once you've got that comfortable, you need to be able to see where your sales process fits in, and you align your sales process with wherever they are. Let's have a quick look at your sales process just to make sure that you do have the right sales process in the job that you do. So let's just pop in as well and give you the sales process. So let's just reveal the sales process for you. This is the sales process that we recommend mortgage advisors work towards. You may have seen it before. You've got lead generation, of course, a 15-minute discovery call, which is complimentary, where you talk about yourself, the client's goals, where they're wanting to go. You talk about your value proposition, what you're about, how you work. You talk about your fee schedule, and you give them the green light to go ahead with you by getting the time clock going at that point. But this is 15 minutes only. You then might need to do an affordability meeting, a fact find meeting. Then you'll need to do some sourcing, some research, and then you give them advice and you close. There may be a mortgage offer meeting if there's a mortgage offer involved, where you just tidy up a few loose ends. Then finally you have what's called the settled in meeting, which means that you're settling in pretty much really when it comes to it. And that's where some advisors pick up on protection and things like that, and referrals and stuff like that. So really then where's your client when you meet them? This is why we talk about a 15-minute discovery call being really important, because that's where you find out all this information about where they are, their goals and their ambitions. Because if you meet them and they're in their research phase, then a 15-minute discovery call might just be perfect for them to find out where they are, where you are, where there's chemistry and you're all aligned. And then of course you can then start moving along your sales process. But you might need to adapt your sales process. It might not be the one that you keep to. For example, you may not need an affordability meeting if it's a pure product transfer, for example. But make sure the remaining steps match their steps, because they will go through that buying process. I think that's a really good commitment technique. So there's a few ideas for you as well. The second commitment technique I want to share with you is what I call a CTA, or call to action. If you're a marketer, or if you've been involved in marketing, the acronym CTA is often used. Every piece of marketing needs to have a call to action. In other words, your customer needs to take steps next. They need some sort of next steps. Every meeting you have with a customer, every phone meeting, video meeting, face-to-face meeting, needs to have a next step, a call to action. And you need to control that. Now, one of the best companies I've come across that do that are these guys, IKEA. Now, IKEA, if you've never been, you want to go because it's quite an experience. Now, their call to action when you enter their store is they have every path laid out for you. They have their sales process laid out for you. step by step, and you pretty much have to adhere to it. Here's a photograph. If you're on the live stream here, you can see that they got these little arrows, haven't they, everywhere. These are their secret, as you can see. These little arrows are either beamed in from the floor in the form of a light or a painting, and it gives you direction as to where you need to go next. Now, of course, you can nip into the back there and get a little shortcut to the tills if you want to, but nobody ever really does. We follow their process. And that's a call to action. And that's what my recommendation to you is. Get your customer to take the next step, the next part of your sales process. Now, one of the best ways of doing that is what I call the Suits metaphor, the Suits method. Now, Suits is a TV program. It's been around for a number of years now. I've watched every episode. It's brilliant. Now, this is where apparently Harry, our Prince Harry, I think can we still call him Prince Harry? I don't know. Prince Harry met Meghan. Now, Meghan was a star in Suits. As you can see from the photograph there, there's a picture there of Meghan, and there's the other guys in the suits. And apparently Harry was in Afghanistan, and he watched an episode of Suits, saw Meghan, fell in love, and the rest is history, as you can see. And I won't go any further than that. Now, the point I'm making here, though, is in Suits, there's a character called Harvey Specter. And there's Harvey Specter. Zoom in so we can see him. Now, Harvey Specter is the lead lawyer. He's smooth, he's rich, he's debonair, he's just casual, relaxed, intelligent. He's got everything a bloke, I guess, needs to have. But he used to use this phrase, which he used all the time. He said, "This is what we're going to do next." He'd always used to use that phrase. Now, let's talk about this is what we're going to need to do. This is what we're going to do next. And that's what I want you to think about doing yourself. When you're with a client, this is what we're going to do next, is the phrase that you use. This is what we're going to do next. And that way, you can keep control of your sales process and guide them to a helpful conclusion.